It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Alive After Reading, Season 2, Episode 1, I suppose. Though I'm not going to, don't count on me to say the episode number every time, folks. It's just not going to happen. But I have a guest today. With me today is Jim Christina. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thanks, Tim. Nice to be back.
Yeah, it's always good to have returning guests and fun folk to talk to. So, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and the stuff you write, because the show has grown since you were last year.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm a retired guy. I started writing in 2008. Mostly westerns, take place in Arizona and environs. Could be Texas, New Mexico, etc. I try to make them all Old West because that's where I know a lot of. And they say, well, write what you know. Well, that's what I know. So that's what I write. But being an avid equestrian and an Old West living historian, my books are extremely authentic. Not always really pretty. I mean, I don't have pretty heroes. I have heroes that have seen the world and seen their time go by. So, but other than that, hey, it's just I have my radio show on Thursday nights. It's called The Writer's Block, and I have a little company that we do small little publishing deals, and so I keep busy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as for your books, I hear you've just been recently working on one.
I've just actually recently finished one.
Oh yeah.
It's called Jefferson's Chance. Really good story. Actually, one of my very favorite books now. It's a young man who lost his lower right leg to a snake bite when he was 10 years old, and he wants to be a Texas Ranger, but they won't allow him to with a wooden appendage. And he happens to run into an engineer that designed and built the suspension bridge over the Brazos River in Waco, Texas in 1870, which is the real guy, and that really did happen. And the guy designs him a new leg that will act and behave just like a real leg. So he gets it built, and he becomes a Texas Ranger.
Oh, cool! Yeah, I believe you were writing that one last time you were on the show, and
that's exactly right. That took me that long to finish it.
Well, everybody goes at their own pace, right? And I, if you don't mind me asking though, how long is the book? Do you count words, or do you just count pages, or any of that stuff?
Actually, I don't count either one. I finish the story from start to finish. I don't look at word counts, and I don't look at page count. This one happens to be, I think, 45,000 plus.
Okay, it's a good little novel.
Around 240 pages.
Nice. That's a good length, I think. I mean, that's a lot of my books fall into that kind of range these days. So, yeah.
Well, I think you'll find that more and more and more as we get older, that more and more books are shrinking down into the 230 to 260 range as far as page count. People don't like to pick up, the books that are 800 pages anymore in the small print. They just can't do it. Nobody has that kind of time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the more crunched people are for time, the more the novella and the short novels kind of come before. Yeah. I mean, my novellas do the best of anything I publish. Not saying a lot, but still. I guess I do want to ask you though, because you did say this is becoming one of your favorite books, or it's become one of your favorite books.
Yeah.
How can you tell when you like the books? I mean, obviously you can tell because you have kind of a sense of what you like, but what makes a book of your own something you really like?
The story. And when I go back and I reread it after it's all done and printed, and I have hard copies, I'll reread it 3 or 4 times. And the more I reread it, the more I like it, and the more I start taking out of myself and start just becoming a reader of the book. And that's when I know if I really like it or not.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and this is just my opinion, and of course we all know what opinions are. But I think the more that you can take yourself out of the equation is when you're reading your own book, is to just to read it as fresh eyes of somebody who's never seen it.
Yeah,
Warts and all.
Yeah, warts and all, and that's a skill as well when it comes to editing a book, I'd imagine.
Exactly, and you know what? I still catch stuff. Fortunately for me, I do have my own little publishing company, so I am able to go in and fix stuff. But when we just got books from, oh golly, I want to say Penguin Press, and found all kinds of mistakes in there. And those books have been, done by a big company, and there's still all kinds of typos and sentence structure bad. It's just horrible.
Sentences and structure as bad as that last sentence.
Yeah, sometimes my brain gets in front of my mouth.
Fair enough.
But you'd think that these editors that these people use would catch silly little things that they don't.
Yeah, I recently started working with a proofreader for all my books instead of just kind of catch as catch can. And I've got to say, it's been really nice. It's been really nice to know that more stuff gets caught at the very least, but there's always something.
Well, proofreading is, that's a whole new job. And, never let your editor proofread and never let your proofreader edit. That's just
absolutely. Yeah.
And never try to edit your own stuff. So that's my philosophy.
Yeah. Some of us, I kind of have to go back through my own stuff, but I'm sure you do some of that as well, right? You go back through.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, but okay, that's interesting. Do you not actually do another pass? But you only go back, while you're actually writing?
I'll write a chapter. I'll go back and reread the chapter. I'll make any repairs that I think I need to make before I move on.
Okay.
And I catch a lot of that stuff as I go. Punctuation and stuff I don't really catch. That's not my job. That's the editor's job.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. My setup is a little different, but I really do, one or two passes after I've written the whole book. That's what I do. I'll read it again.
Oh, absolutely. I'll take a proofreading copy and I'll go through it cover to cover a couple times. I could show you, well, if you had a camera on, I could show you proofreading copies that have red writing and blue writing all the way through it.
Oh, we're audio only as far as the podcast, but that's right. Yeah, I still understand.
So at any rate, it's interesting to be able to do that, and you start really liking the book once you've seen it in whole form, and you're able to read, and then you go, wow, that's really a good passage, or golly, that paragraph really hit home, or that whole chapter was dynamite. You know what I mean? And
I know what you mean completely. I've been editing a series over the past few months, and now they're all out. But all three of the books I wrote a while ago, and now I'll be working on more of them. But I was really surprised by how certain passages, especially, just jumped out at me. I was like, "Wow, this is actually pretty good."
Yeah, exactly. And that's when I pull myself away from me reading what I've written and looking at it with fresh eyes. Right. It's like my new book, Jefferson's Chance. Pretty much all of chapter 17 is a fight these three guys have with about 40 Comanches, and they're stuck in this ravine, and the fight is on, and little by little they're getting hit with arrows and hit with bullets, and they're still fighting, and they're Texans, so the Comanches are a little afraid of them because they're the Tejas Tanapu, the Texas Rangers, and the Comanches hated them, or the Tejanos, which was the Mexican ranchers. That's what the Comanches called them. And they just hated them because they wouldn't give up. They fought like the Comanche, and the Comanches didn't like that. They liked the white people that gave up.
You got to appreciate the people who are going to just roll over for you when you're actually in a fight.
Absolutely. I've been in that position. I would have wished some people would have rolled over for me instead of continued fighting long after it was obvious that they had been beaten.
Oh yeah. No, a last stand. As they say. Or a stand. No spoilers. Sorry, not to talk over.
Actually, there is no last stand. Well, it kind of is, but it's really not.
Okay.
But I dragged something back from my memory from my time in Vietnam, and I wanted to show this one guy is standing there, and he's looking around, and all he sees is empty cartridge cases, and hundreds of them laying in this ravine with these other bodies that have finally been killed. And it's him, a Bowie knife, and hundreds of empty cartridge casings. Because they leave a battlefield's a mess always.
Yeah.
And that's what he's looking at. And he's looking at these Comanches, and they're coming at him. And finally, he starts screaming at them, and they just stop and they look at him and go, "What the hell?"
Wow, that's a really vivid image, though. Yeah, geez, just dropping that. That's the kind of horrors you run into in a war situation, a battle kind of thing.
Exactly. And this man is standing there holding all he has. He's got an arrow in his shoulder, an arrow in his side, a bullet hole through his shoulder, and a bullet hole in his thigh. And he's standing there holding this Bowie knife, screaming at these Apaches. "Come on, you effing Comanche, come and get me, you dirty sons of bitches." And the Plains Indians, Comanches, Arapaho, Cheyenne, Sioux, they put a lot of stock in crazy people. They were revered. They were almost like godlike. So they just stood and they listened to this man scream at him, and they said, "Oh, wow, okay, well, we're done with this guy."
Yeah, don't want any piece of that. That sounds like bad. That's bad mojo.
Kill a crazy guy. That's their law. So they just turned around and rode away.
Yeah, wow. That's the kind of that's a cool scene. That's all I can really say about that. Yeah.
When you read it, it's really cool. As a matter of fact, I'm going to send you a copy of the PDF when we get done with this conversation.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Though I would say I wasn't going to go easy on you, but I go easy on all my guests.
You can go. I don't care if you go easy on me.
No, I'm just joking. It's just a talk. I'm not. It's not that. It's yeah.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah. So as when I think if I recall from last time we chatted, you don't really. Do you put much stock in technique? I don't want to jump to a conclusion here because I'm not sure if I remember. Do you do much? Thinking about how you're writing the story.
Sometimes. Actually, what I put more stock into anything is the dialogue technique.
Mm. Okay, so what do you do for dialogue? Yeah.
Well, I found out in my first book, and then all the way up through, and you always learn as you go, that each character has their own way of speaking, just like in real life. And the hard part about the dialogue is to make sure that it's consistent all the way through per character.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do. And to get dialogue down as to how people actually speak, sometimes can be hard, I guess.
Oh yeah, no kidding. And if you want it to be naturalistic, I understand how that's where you want, like, okay, you don't want to feel like movie dialogue where it's all cut down and
nothing is worse.
Yeah. You want it to feel like
the movie dialogue. I would rather, because most people speak, they don't have a fluidity to their speech. They just talk.
Mm-hmm.
And movie dialogue, of course, is extremely fluid. But regular people, just like we're talking right now, I mean, we start, we stop, we have halting words, we don't have halting words. So I mean, you have to kind of follow a speech pattern, and some characters like lisp and some characters stutter. And so,
Yep.
And it's all in there.
Yeah, I got to say,
was Kieran O'Connor, who is a character of mine that showed up in a book called The Return, and he was a little bandy rooster from Ireland, County Corps, and he had joined the 14th British Grenadiers and wound up in Fukin, Africa. And he went AWOL and he wound up in Louisiana, and his dialect was kind of hard to write. Because Irish is hard to write. You can speak it, but Irish is hard to write.
You don't want to go too strong with it. You need to make it understandable to people who aren't getting exactly what you're laying down there.
Exactly. It's putting one word in front of the other that wouldn't make any sense in English, but it makes great sense in Irish. So, I don't know. So anyhow, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
So as far as the writing goes, you know, you seem like, I mean, not to use the word too much, but a kind of a naturalistic writer too.
I am.
With the low emphasis on going back over it, you know, less of that editing post book.
Well, no, I do go back over it. Don't
you do?
Get me
Okay.
wrong. I mean, and I do correct mistakes. I rely on my editor to really clean up my prose because I'm horrible at it.
Oh, okay. So that's not the same thing as what I was thinking. My bad. However, you definitely focus on this kind of making the story feel authentic and the dialogue natural and all that stuff. So,
sure.
as far as what you read, do you find that you prefer to read that kind of work too, or I mean, you do read a lot, from my understanding.
Yeah, I do. I do read a lot. I don't really have a choice into what I read, Tim. Because I just get handed a book, and here you go. You know, the next week's guest.
Yeah, I mean, but of the ones because you gotta like some of those more than others. Not the I don't want you to name names or anything, but what do you look for in a book when you're what really stands out to you when you're reading a book? Is it the same sort of qualities that you write? Story. Okay. Story
jumps out at me very first and foremost, and if the first 5 pages of the book don't grab me, the book isn't going to grab me.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very that's. Oh, go on. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's a lot like a lot of editors and agents and people like that who read a lot. People who read a ton, they know right away when the book's not for them.
Oh, sure. Well, it's like, like I said, I've been for 4 years. I've had to read a book a week and talk to the guys who wrote it. And I don't always like the books. I mean, obviously, I'm human.
Mm-hmm.
So in the books that I don't like, I look for other stuff. I look for dialogue placement. I look for how you transition from one scene to the next. I look for stuff like that. So I really don't have to or want to get into a conversation about the storyline itself, especially if I didn't like the book. Then
Yeah, and it's not, and often that means just the book isn't for you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not really. You may, if you're reading, say, a young adult book, that may not be up your alley. That kind of thing necessarily.
Well, sure. And, but that doesn't mean it isn't a good book. And we tell people that all the time on the show. Well, you've heard our show, just not a lot.
Yeah.
And we tell people all the time, look, you're not always going to like what you read, but it's the book that you've just read that you may not like, someone else does. It's their cup of tea. It's just not yours.
Right.
But we try to be fair with every writer that comes on our show.
And you can't ask for more than that when it's a matter of taste, and that's, yeah.
Well, yeah, and plus the fact that we get, the writer has 40 minutes on our show, solid. That's theirs, and most interviews they have are like, no longer than usually 10 or 15 minutes, and sometimes they'll get a half an hour show, but mostly it's just like 5 or 10 minutes, and the host hasn't read their book, so they're going off of crib notes that some producer gave them. So,
yeah, I'm feeling a little called out here, but I don't actually get the crib notes.
Well, I don't know why.
Oh God, I don't have a producer. Anyway,
well, no, but you have not an agent, but a publicist.
Well, kind of. Anyway, I have a partnership here. But anyway, that's the. What I find in advance. I have to dig it up myself generally.
Sure.
But
sure.
And sometimes I don't get around to it. However, I do think it's interesting. I mean, it's always fun to talk about interviewing too, because that's an interesting subject. Obviously, I do podcasts as well, similar to radio in certain ways, a lot of ways.
Yeah, but yours don't go out live.
No, not live, and thank goodness for that.
Oh, mine do live every Thursday night.
Oh, it's gotta be really challenging. I gotta say.
Yes, it is, and we say all the time, this is live radio, folks, and we're professionals.
Oh, but professional live is a little different than professional recording. Yeah. But enough about that. I mean, as far as books you have enjoyed reading lately,
yes.
That's kind of the last main question I have for you today, and that's except for where people can find your stuff, but that comes later.
Okay.
What sort of books could you recommend?
I've enjoyed reading most lately was Malice in Wonderland by Tom Lang. I don't know if you know who Tom Lang is.
No, but the name of the book sounds interesting.
It is. It is. Tom Lang is the retired LAPD detective that was the lead detective on the O.J. Simpson murders.
Oh, okay.
And he wrote a book called Malice in Wonderland. It's about the Laurel Canyon murders in 1982 up in Laurel Canyon on Wonderland Drive. They made a movie about it called Wonderland. I don't know if you saw it, but John Holmes was involved, and a lot of other people were involved in that. And he gave it the entire story from start to finish, and it took actually over 20 years to finally completely solve that case.
Wow, so it's true crime type stuff.
It is extremely true crime. Oh. And I also have a book that he did with Phil Van Adder, who was his partner at O.J. Simpson. Evidence Dismissed. That was a book that he had written about the O.J. case.
Okay. Yeah. I remember
I him in the studio with me on Tuesday night. We did a special show. I actually do special Tuesdays called the Writer's Block 1-on-1.
Oh, cool. Good to know. But if you, I got to say, and I got to say that as somebody who grew up in the 90s, I know I was born in the 90s actually. I was a little too young to really notice the O.J. Simpson trial.
Uh-huh.
But going back through there was a TV series.
O.J. Simpson. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really fascinating, and I was like, wow, so that's what that's all about.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, and I did really enjoy. I really enjoyed some true crime stuff in my day as well. So that's that's interesting. And anything else you want to recommend to people?
Let me see. Recommend?
Yeah, or recommend, or just books you liked. Either way. Yeah,
there's one on Dignity of Dying. It's called Helder's Story. Very well done, very well written. It's by this guy Helder, and he died of oh my God, just metastatic cancer. It was all over his body. And his wife, and he was one of the very first dignity for death patients in California that was able to take the drugs and go out his own way. Yeah. And it was written by his wife, and it's very, very well done. And for a first-time writer, it's a very good book.
Okay.
It grabs you. It's very sad, but it's a good story.
Yeah, it's heavy subject matter, but definitely interesting too.
Yeah, subject matter is a touch rough, but on that, it's a pretty good story. And most people I don't know that would like it. I kind of did, only because her writing was exceptional, and for a first-time writer, I was so impressed.
Cool. Yeah, and first book. I mean, the first time anybody writes a book, it's like, geez. There's a reason that there's so many trunk novels out there that are never going to see the light of day. Right. So it is truly cool. It's truly cool to have to see one where it's like, yeah, this is where somebody put a lot into something, and they had enough talent and enough skill that it paid off right away, or more quickly than a lot of us.
Yeah. Exactly. Hey, let me run by you real quick. Also, one more thing.
Sure.
Reviews. I don't know, a lot of writers, and this is the advice that I would give to people who are writing books and have to run to their website and read their reviews. Don't do it. If you want to read a review, if you happen to get there, great. But don't let the reviews. Good reviews feel good. I mean, you know it. I know it. All writers know it. But there are some writers, and I'm not going to mention names, and I know about 5 of them that just live for their reviews, and it makes it just tears them up as a writer if they don't get a good review on something.
Yeah, you got to detach yourself from the outcome in that regard.
I absolutely agree 100%. And we tell people that all the time, and they still, oh my God, my reviews were horrible. Well, you know what? Maybe that guy just didn't like your book.
Right.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, there's people out there, and if your book the more people who see your book, the more people aren't going to like it, as well as the more people who are generally.
Exponentially, the numbers are there. I mean, you can't win. You're a writer.
Absolutely, and that's a good note to go on. I as though I do want to mention one of the books I've been reading lately, which is actually before we go anyway. And if you want to add any more about reviews, that's fine too. But I've been reading Casino Royale by Ian Fleming, the first James Bond novel.
Yeah, that was the very first book.
Yeah, I went back to it. I mean, they've got nice ebook versions of these books out now, so it's kind of nice. And it's pretty fascinating, interesting. The writing style being extremely kind of detail oriented, let's say, right. You know. And I've never read a James Bond novel before, so this is really pretty fascinating because it's so different from the movies, and even the movies that try to go closer to the books in some ways, you know, are nothing like this. It's just, and it's kind of a good thing, honestly, that this book's so different.
Yeah, Casino Royale was 1953. It was the very first James Bond book, and it was Ian Fleming's first attempt at writing anything.
Wow!
He did a really great job. You know, Dr. No was the first movie, and Casino Royale was the first book.
Yeah, and it does read a lot like an old pulp novel in a lot of ways too, which is really cool. I do enjoy that. And
they're not big books.
No, this is about 200 pages, something like that.
Yeah, maybe 200 pages, maybe
less, I think.
1,000 words. Not real big, but they got real popular. When I was a kid, I read every single one of them.
Yeah, my brother's really into watching James Bond movies. I'm like, you should try reading the books. We should both try reading the books, kind of thing. He kind of
Fortunately for the movie going public, when they got Daniel Craig to play James Bond, he fit Ian Fleming's James Bond much better than anyone else ever had.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, because Ian Fleming describes James Bond as a cold-blooded killer, and that's what he is.
Exactly. The end of the first chapter, where it's like, as soon as nobody's watching him and he's going to sleep, and he's just like, and he just looks cold, and that's how he's described. It's like he's kind of cold and brutal character. It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah, he's got a big scar on his face, and he's seen the world, as it were.
Yep, and that's a fun character, but it's also a really dark character. Obviously,
he's extremely dark.
Yeah,
and people don't get it, and that's why I think Daniel Craig does such a good job with him, because he just has no compunction of pulling the trigger on somebody.
Yeah, no kidding. So and that was actually, it was the name of my. I started with this one because not only because it's the first book, but also that was my favorite movie my favorite Bond movie that I've seen. So it's a good start. Yeah.
I'm waiting for him to redo Dr. No and all of those.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how much longer Craig's going to be in the role, but
he said he's going to do maybe one. Well, he's going to do definitely one more, maybe two, and then he's done.
Yeah, figures. I mean, he's had a pretty good run though. And anyway, that's probably enough James Bond time.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, go to Amazon.com. You can go to my name, Jim Christina, and they'll bring up all my books. And if you like Westerns and you like realistic Westerns, that's what you want to read. And you can find them all there. And Jonah Blue has hit over 7,500 copies sold. Jefferson's Chance is picking up some leg now, and it's starting to sell well. There's nothing like getting a good size check from Amazon to make your day.
Amen to that. And as for this show, you can find us at mentalcellarpublications.com. You can you can email me at tim@timniederreiter.com if you want to provide feedback or you want to be on the show. And you can find my books at amazon.com. Search Tim Niederreiter. Thanks for listening, folks. Yeah,
you can go to my website, jimchristina.net. They're all listed there as well. And they all have links to Amazon, so you can just go there and punch it and take you right to Amazon.
Awesome.
Show me the
money. Show Jim the money. Thanks a lot, Jim. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Tim. Have a great weekend.
Have a good day, week, everybody.
That tears it.